Hello and welcome to Cyber Dragon Deck Profile. Now before we begin, I'm going to say a few particular things. As you've seen in the title and in the thumbnail itself, there is going to be a giveaway. That's right, beside the 2K one that we're going to reach until the end of the year, if you will be able to get to that, I actually decided to maybe even not do that because I have another idea for you. I'm going to give two lucky individuals in 2 months two, tins of lost memories, otherwise known as 2020 megatins. However, there is a catch to that. If in this period of time which I've given you, you'll be able to get me to 1500 subs, I will give 4 megatins of that sort. Now you might say to yourself like, but 1500 subs is 300 subs more, that's a little bit too much. Well, I most of the month get like 100 subs anyway, so just crank it up to 150. I don't really think that's going to be an issue. And I'm going to give another megatin for every 150 subs. So essentially, if we will be able to get to 1500, there will be 4 tins. If we will be able to get to 1650, that will be 5 tins. 1800, 6 tins. That's the way it should go, and of course I will contact the winners once we'll get to that, so check out the link in the description down below to a little bit get on the entries and get on that stuff, so that could be really, really cool. And there are also the Yugituber Island, which is something that I will cover up at the end of the video because I don't want to clog more of your time, but go check that out, that's really cool. As well as I'm going to say anyway, a subscriber a day, keep the depression away. If you want to go to help me, other Yugitubers in the card description down below, as well as the Coalition of Scrubs, my Vendred friends, and other people. Go check that out, because we're doing a lot of content, and there are very, very awesome creators. But without further ado, let's jump right into the Cyber Dragon deck profile, and let's see what I have in store for you. Alright, so for the deck itself, let's get started by 3 copies of Cyber Dragon, the OG, followed up by 3 copies of Core, 3 copies of Hertz, right, 2 copies of Nasture, and then the 1 copy of Veer. Now I'm hoping the lightning is not that bad, but let me explain the lineup of this one. So Cyber Dragon the OG is pretty much understandable, it's pretty much self-explanatory at this point, it's really good with your, Hertz and stuff like that, because it has the only card that have the name Cyber Dragon period in the entire archetype, because all of these only count in the field or graveyard, so it's still real needed. Also machine duplication. Core is your searcher, sometimes you do use it in your graveyard, but it's not really useful in the graveyard anymore. You mostly use it for its search effect, pretty much what it does. Hertz, you mostly search it again for its own grave effect, which is searching a Cyber Dragon or recovering other Cyber Dragons from your graveyard except itself. Nasture, I only run the 2 because it's really not that useful. Not saying it's not useful, but it's not really that good to open up multiple of these, and they're not really the most amazing. And you technically also have additional 3 copies, or should I say 2 copies of Galaxy Soldier, which we'll get to that. So additional copies of these, like having more than 4 overall, just prove out not consistent. And the lock for machines could be also a problem, so only 2 is just what you need. And lastly, the only one that I'm debating to maybe bump is Veer. Veer, it sounds a little bit weird, why do you want to bump Veer? But Veer actually is not that bad. This format, or generally to just chain block your opponent. So I was like, I am considering bumping it up, but I decided not to, because most of the time you only need the 1, because just a free special summon and additional ones could be considered brick, but I am considering it bumping up to 2 just to have an additional name, and essentially have just a good lineup of Cyber Dragons, but I decided to go with the OG one. Or should I say the more generic lineup of Cyber Dragons. Next up, for your Galaxy Soldiers or honorary machines for the Cyber Dragon decks, 2 Galaxy Soldiers and 1 Jizukiru. These are the ones that is searchable by Cyber Repair Plant. Galaxy Soldier, like I said, is an honorary Cyber Dragon. You pretty much search this, special summon, search the other, special summon, and then you get yourself an infinity. Pretty self-explanatory and simple. And Jizukiru is just also a searchable kaiju, which I am considering bumping it up. Just because, depending of course on the matches, I would also recommend to run multiple copies of it in the side or any other kaiju, just because sometimes it does come up that help you break boards, but of course it's depending on the situation. And you can also use this against your opponent to just give them a kaiju, and then also use a fortress to just fuse the Cyber Dragon to pretty much take it back and just have something really useful. So yeah, Honorary Cyber Dragons, these is the lineup and everything. Lastly, for the hand traps, before we move on to the spells, 2 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, and 2 copies of Effect Veiler. I will explain this lineup really briefly. Everybody know what these 2 does, these 2, and maybe these 2. These do just destroy spells, like destroy cards when effect or everything is activated, so that's really nice. And the reason why I'm running 2 of everything here, there is a reason, because Cyber Dragon is one of those decks that really don't like to have multiple copies of the same hand trap in their hand, which could be really an issue, so I decided to just run 2, 2, and 2. And the reason why I decided to choose Ghost Ogre is also really nice to have Ghost Ogre, because Ghost Ogre is a light itself, so we can use this for our discard outlet. So I decided to go 2, 2, and 2 to have something like also against Eldritch, Delando, whatever that is, in way of that. So most of the time, like, at least 4 of the hand traps are useful every single matchup. This always useful. This one's also pretty useful, but like at the very least, these 2 are useful every single matchup. This one sometimes. But this is the lineup, and I seen like no problem with it. I actually really like this lineup of 6. It proved up to be really useful. Also, if you have Nibiru, because it's a light, that can also come up, but this is the lineup of monsters that I have because I do not own a Nibiru. And that's pretty much does it for the monsters. Monsters are pretty simple, but the spells are a little bit more complex. First off, let's start with your search spells. 3 copies of Cyber Emergency, 1 copy of Cyber Repair Plant, and also let's throw in Cyber Rever System. Cyber Emergency is absolutely ridiculous search spell. It's giving you the ability to have add a light machine monster that cannot be normal summon or set, or a Cyber Dragon monster from your deck to your hand, and if this card is on position is negated by your opponent card effect and sent to your graveyard, you can discard a card and add this card to your hand. So it's absolutely ridiculous. You can just pretty much discard a card, get this back, and get another search. Obviously, it's depending, of course, on the ruling on the situation. I think against Ash, maybe it could work. I'm not really 100% sure yet. Not because I'm not saying I don't know, I just don't remember. And it's been a little bit of a while since I picked Cyber Dragon, so I don't really remember. But the point is, this, if it's to get negated, you can technically essentially use it again. I believe that's the point. Cyber Repair Plant, you only need the 1. It's a lot worse than this thing. And you technically can search it, and it search for you Galaxy Soldier and stuff like that only if you have a Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, which is not always come up. So yeah, do keep that in mind. That's the reason why it's 1. And lastly, one's the Rever System. Rever System is just a monster reborn for your Cyber Dragons, which mean every one of your main deck Cyber Dragons, as well as Seeger in the extra deck. So yeah, that's them. Next up, Fusion Spells. 1 copy of Cyberload Fusions is also a searchable cyber card by, what is his name? Core. Then 2 Overload Fusion. And then lastly, we also run another Fusion spell, which some people are going to pretty much raise their eyebrow, but 2 copies Power Bond. Now, some people may be saying like, oh, but why do you want to run Power Bond? Why Power Bond is really used? Shouldn't you run something a little bit more useful, cut these out and run something else? You could say true. You could just cut these out and just put something like a Cosmic Cyclone, Nibiru, stuff like that. You could just go that line. But this is something that I picked up by Invoked 101, Nod, which is essentially like aka Nod, which I actually also part of his Discord server, and I just like look at this on his list, and I actually understand the logic quite a bit, and I actually agree about this so much. This deck can OTK easily. If you're able to use this on a Cyber Twin Dragon, you're getting a 5600 that can attack twice. And this deck can just break boards pretty easily. And this help you to just build the fusions that you want to. It's just really cool for that one. And essentially, like in Master Rule 5, because like there are more fusion synchros than Xyz, it's a little bit more easier to use this one, and you don't really need to compromise your extra monster zone, like Link Arrows, and just don't do anything. This, again, can be cuttable, but I just really like the 2 copies. It's just really useful with 2 of your fusions, or should I say like all of your fusions, but technically Twin and Chimera Tech, I believe. The Rampage one, it's really useful with them. But generally, it's also just a really nice card. Overload is self-explanatory, and Cyberload is a searchable fusion spell that just can recycle for you everything that you just pretty much banished. So that's pretty much does it for that. Then we're running 3 copies of Machine Duplication. Machine Duplication is your miracle card. If this goes off, you win, pretty much. Then one copy of Monster Reborn as well. Monster Reborn is another really useful card, which is really cool. And these are just proved to be really useful in every single situation. As for the last spell and the traps, first off, actually I'm going to reveal the trap first, which is Cyberlord Fusion, and then 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Now people might actually going to ask me, if this is an OTK deck, why do you run 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More? And I'm going to say this. Because cards like Called by the Grave, while they are very, very useful, they're not really useful going second. And going second, this is what this deck want to do game 1. And if you're going against the meta deck, most of the time they're just going to choose to go first anyway. So having something like this, then breaking their board will be absolutely easy for a deck like this, because it's Cyber Dragons. Sure, they will not receive any damage, but with Cyber Dragons, you can build enough interruptions to then just not let them play next turn and then OTK them on the turn after that. And plus, sometimes you do need to sacrifice that turn with damage and everything, unfortunately, to just survive. And this is also just a really nice way to just give you in the main. And like, you might ask yourself, like, but if you do that in the main, why do you run this? Well, because I don't OTK with that. I just break their board. So I do need another searchable target to just have something to interrupt them, and you can banish stuff and can pop up to 4 cards, I believe, with this card specifically. And essentially, like, the Dark Rulers performed very nicely. You can test it yourself. Some people will call me dumb. It was like, say, oh, but then they can OTK you afterwards. I was like, okay, but you can build a board yourself, and most of the time they're not going to have the resources. And if they're playing Aurora Dawn full combo or whatever, which most people do these days in ADO Pro and stuff like that, is just, how should I say this? Oh yeah, they don't have enough resources. So yeah, their extra deck is pretty empty. They maybe have 1 or 2 extra deck monsters, and you can also just deal with their cards in hand. So it's like, they're just building a board to be broken. And if you're breaking their board, most of the time they're not going to have any way to come back. Now, this is a different logic than the Demise and Ruin deck that I did, and I'm going to end it on that, because Demise and Ruin cannot really put a board to defend yourself. But this can. This deck can, and that's the reason why I run this, and I'm hoping my logic is pretty much understandable. But if you want to, you could run 3 copies of Cold by the Grave, or Nibiru, or anything that you've seen fit. I would recommend this maybe to be a Nibiru. I just don't own a Nibiru, so that's my reason for that one. Pretty much does it for the main deck. That's it. Now we'll move on to the extra deck. So let's start first with the fusions. So for the fusions, you run 2 copies of Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. I don't know why I say Cyber Tech Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. Anyway, this card is really cool. You fusion summon this card with the above fusion materials, obviously, because I just need to mention that because of the ruling. Secondly, it can target spells and traps on your opponent's side of the field up to the number of, up to the monster number of fusion materials and pop them, so minimum 2. And then you also have the ability to just pretty much send Cyber Dragons, or should I say Light Machine monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, for each of one of those monsters you send to the graveyard, you get an additional attack on this one. So that's why I said like Power Bond is really cool with this one, because it can attack 3 times in 4200, which is really cool. Then the other one, which is really big with it, is Cyber Twin. This is another one that does that, and just can attack twice, and it's 28. Sometimes you do need the 56 instead of attacking twice, instead of the 42 attacking 3 times, but of course depending on the situation, how your deck functions and everything. 1 copy of Fortress, one of the only good looking gold rares that I ever seen. Like, you might not be able to see this because of like the camera, but like this is one of the only good looking gold rares I ever seen. Regardless, this one is just really nice. You just fusion, and it's pretty much a death sentence to any Orcust player out there. You just a death sentence, you summon a Cyber Dragon, they know that they're dead. 1 copy of Chimera Tech Mega Fleet. Mega Fleet is not really as good as it used to be. That's why you only run the 1, because what it called? Master Rule 5 kind of like make the Master Rule 4 of like having 2 monsters in the extra monster zone and, you know, locking yourself not really necessary. Of course, if you're using Link monsters, and if you know you're going against a deck with Link monsters, sure, you deal with that, but not every single deck does that, and even if they do, they most of the time, like, don't really need more than 1, and sometimes they don't even end with the monster in the extra monster zone, because they could just link away and just have monster not in the extra monster zone. So only 1 copy is just mostly what you need. Back in the day, you will play 2 of this, but right now it's not that good. And lastly, one copy of Cyber Eternity Dragon for the off chance that you are forced going first and have something in the extra deck. And of course, I have some things in the side as well, but this is just on the option that you are forced to go first and you need some particular kind of useful fusion. That's it for that. Now move on to the Xyz. 2 copies of Infinity, 2 copies of Nova, and I myself still run the 1 copy of Pleiades. I know that there are some people who would say like the 1 Pleiades is not necessary, and there are also some people who will say like you only need 2, like 1 of each of these, which I don't understand why, or 2 and 1. But I would say this, I really like this lineup, and Pleiades is a little bit more useful. Because you do not run 3 Nasture anymore, you run only 2. And if you run only 2 Nasture, that means that your chance of locking yourself is really low, and you technically only locking yourself with Nasture. So you can always just summon this first, and just have Nasture to just help you complete the board. It's pretty much simple as that. It's really useful to have this lineup. The only one that I'm not sure about is the 2 Infinities, but it sometimes do come up, so it does have some usage. And lastly, Cyber Dragon Seeger, Platinum Gadget, not Gold Gadget, Linkaribo, and then Editing Magic, Olmirage. Olmirage is the only one I'm missing, and for anybody who's asking, Olmirage has been ordered. Don't worry about it. It should be arriving in the next month or so to my country if nothing goes awry in the terms of the shipment because of, you know, the world being chaos. But anyway, Olmirage is really useful. Use your normal summon and stuff like that. Linkaribo, you have a lot of level 1s. You have like 5 of them. 7s if you're counting the effect veilers. Platinum Gadget, just a really cool special summon from the hand. Sometimes you need that, and you most of the time summon Nasture with this from the hand. And Seeger is just an OTK potential. That pretty much does it for the extra deck, and pretty much does it for the deck profile itself before we'll move on to the side, as well as for another thing that I have planned for you in the end, or for those who are interested in that. But mostly, this is pretty much it. Yeah, let's move on to the side deck, shall we? As for the side deck, first and foremost, 2 additional copies of 1 of each of Ash Blossom and Effect Veiler for a 3rd copies if we need to. 3 additional copies of DD Crow for an additional hand trap, as well as 3 additional copies of a hand trap called Artifact Lancia, because Lancia actually proved to be really nice, as well as Crow. Both of these proved to be either blocking your opponent or not giving your opponent the ability to banish further effects, or just, you know, banishing the card that they want to banish further effects, just lose targets. So these do come up. And lastly, you know, for the monsters at the very least, we have 1 copy of Jizakira additionally, if you want to hard draw it, or you just need the additional copy, because that sometimes do come up. Maybe you want to run 2 copies, I'm not sure, but I just like the additional 1. It does help. Just have an additional 1, it's actually okay. And lastly, we have 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone and Called by the Grave for, you know, going first, as well as just want to banish spells and traps. But that pretty much does it for the deck profile, including side deck for those who are just interested in that. There is another particular thing called the Yugitubers Island, which is something I'm going to talk about in a second. But if you're only interested in the deck profile, this is pretty much where the video ends to you. Although I would recommend for you to go check out the Yugituber Island thing and stay for 2 additional minutes. But again, that's up to your choice. But let's just get into the Yugituber Island thing, shall we? Alright, so for the Yugituber Island, which is the last thing I want to talk about, and sorry I'm moving a little bit around, I'm just a little bit of tired, so I don't want to get sleepy. Yugituber Island is a very interesting idea. I don't really think I can go over detail that much what it's all about, but it's essentially challenges by our good friend, R2 YGO. I believe that's his name of the channel. I think so, if I'm mistaken, but R2 is definitely the name. Definitely, the name should appear on screen. I don't know, I'm very, very tired, as I mentioned. But yeah, it's a really cool idea. You take 16 Yugitubers and you're just doing a particular, you know, challenges, stuff like that, FTKs, if you like doing some puzzles, win 1 turn, and you, also the viewers, getting to be part of that challenge. So if you want to check that out and maybe have some Yugituber that you know that wants to suggest them to be part of it, that could be really cool. And just, you know, R2 is going to take care of that and choose the participant from those that want to participate in Season 1. Obviously, If I will not take part, I will ask if you want my help in order to organize, and if not, at the very least I will shout it out here from time to time. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is for Yugituber Island. I myself want to participate in that particular thing. I don't really have anything to say about that regardless, because I think if you search Yugituber Island on YouTube, you will find the 4 people that are already participating and or put application for participation, and that will just kind of go to explain to you more in detail. But yeah, that's could be a really cool idea, and if that will go off, I will be very, very happy to take part on that as well. But that's pretty much it. Yeah, we're done with the main deck, extra deck, giveaway, everything. See you next time, I guess. That's pretty much it. Bye-bye.